Hello and welcome to yet another video of Probench How to series. In this video, I'm going to cover the most important and complex question type, or like how to add a table type question within Probench or in the questionnaire. So this is uh, by far the most complex question type where you need to create multiple rows and columns, but also like along with the complexity it also gives you a power to kind of collect a lot of data in a very short amount of space. So within Probench, this table question type gets even more powerful because there is no limitation to the number of rows you can add, and also like you can add any other question type within this table question type, because table question type can be acted as or work as a group of multiple questions, but in a proper format. So let me take you through a brief demonstration on how to add uh, a table question type. So I have a template here, and I'll and there is a page that is already created, but I'll create a question type called as uh, demo demo table type, and then I will select this as a table, and then within the table, if you imagine uh, the structure of a table, it is more like rows and columns. Okay, so the very first thing that comes into mind is the rows. So what we need to do is you need to create multiple rows uh, under the table. Okay, so I'll create three rows. So I'll name it as row 1, and then give the type as row. Then I'll give it as row 2 and give it the type as row, and another row 3 which will give me the type of row again. So I have created three rows within like the table, and each of these three rows would now have columns. So in Probench, we do not have a question type or subtype which is called as column, but the system is intelligent enough to determine by itself like how many columns it should have. So based on the child questions of the rows. So the number of child questions uh, inside a row constitutes the number of columns. Okay, so for example, let me create three text questions within this row, and then another three text questions within another row, and another three questions. Sorry, this was four, so I'll delete one. So what would happen is it would create three rows and three columns with text questions in it. Okay, so let me like now save changes and show you how this is currently looking. So I'll just rebuild the page. So right. So first row, why is it a bit different? So if as I mentioned, it's like three rows and three columns. So these are like three rows. So one column is added by default as a table or column. Sorry, the row headers. Okay. So yeah. So why this particular row one did not have a row header, and instead it had a text here. So reason is like Probench by itself needs first row as a row header. Okay. So what needs to be done here is I'll create another row here which I will cut and paste on the top, Okay, and I'll name it as row header and make it as row. Sorry. Okay, and then within the row header, it is always the text of the headers, right? So what I'll do is I have to create this inline text. I'll click on cancel. Again, I'll create another inline text. So it would ask me whether I want to make that inline text as a child or a sibling of uh, the row type. So I'll create these three headers and I will name it as column 1, then column 2, and then column, column 3, right. And I'll again save changes and I'll rebuild the page. So now if you see that, okay, so here because now like you would be able to see the difference. Now, as I have added a header, okay, and each row has its own header because uh, the system automatically takes the name of the row or the text of the row type question as its header. So, including this row header, there are 4 columns, right? That is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and in the row header column or row header row, I have only created 3 inline text. So that means I have to create one more inline text so that it automatically uh, makes it as a four column and 3 rows kind of structure. So here I'll again rebuild the page. Okay, so now if you see the table is proper. So we have 4 rows, including one header row, and 4 columns, including one uh, row header. Okay, so this is how. So now again just to revisit the structure or to reiterate the things. So my table has 4 rows, including one row header. Okay, and each row would have 4 columns. So there are 4 child questions to each of them, and only for the first one, and for the second one, because the name itself or text itself of the row is being taken as a row header, it only needs 3 sub questions. Okay, so as I said, Probench automatically determines like what type of uh, sorry, not what type, but how many columns needs to be added. And if you have observed, it automatically also determines the width a column should be given. Okay, so if I want to add one more column, what I need to do is I'll have to add uh, one of this text. So column 4, and then like for each of the row I need to add a question, then another question, then another question. Okay, so there are 4 text questions on each of the rows. I'll do save changes, and after save changes, just to reflect, I'll do rebuild. So on rebuilding, I now have 4 columns, and if you have observed, Probench has automatically uh, taken the column width based on the inner space the inner uh, question takes. Okay, so now this all the questions inside this particular table are text questions. So but there are no limitations to what type of questions can be put within a table. Okay, so if I want to put a checkbox question or multi-select question or a single select question, I am free to do all those things. I can put all the number questions, all percentage questions, or maybe combination of them. So if suppose I want to change the last fourth column into say of type percentage, for all the things, then what I need to do is I'll go to the table. I'll just change the row header so that uh, just for an identification purpose, and then go to each row, change the last question to percent. So similarly, I'll go to row 2, change the last question to percent, and go to row 3 and last question to percent. Okay, for this I do not have to do any save changes because I've just modified the existing structure, uh, or just the type of the questions. And if you see now, all these are the question, so the percent types, validate percent value field. Okay, so I can have any such combinations within the table. So just for an example, like if you see this particular thing, or this particular question, you have all the combinations. You have number question, percent question, text question, you have drop downs. So there is no kind of limitation to what it can be or what combination you can use. The only and also you can see the number of rows and the number of columns can be more as well, but it all depends on how much space you have on that page. That is how you need to determine that. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Uh, so uh, so I'll now go to, the one very important thing here before we go to the FAQ section is that the first row, which is the row header, it normally has the text, right? So that's the reason we have put this inline text that we call it. So the first cell here is blank because I don't want anything here, and then from the second cell onwards I am able to see whatever I want to have it here. Okay, so hopefully this demonstration for creating a normal table question type was helpful. So let me do one couple of more demonstrations here to start with. Uh, so now suppose within this particular table, I want the first column to be single select questions and second column to be multi-select questions. So I can very well do that. So what I can do is uh, I'll go to row 1, make it as a single select, that is radio, and then within radio I'll create a couple of choices. So I'll say choice 1 and choice 2. So I'll give the type as choice for them, choice and then choice. Then in the second column, which is this, which was text previously, I'll make it as, so this is the first column, as you know, so row has this 4 types. The first uh, column I change it to radio. The second column I'll change it to checkboxes, which is the multi-select choice. So I'll create another couple of choices here, which is like multi-select choice 1 and multi-select choice, sorry, choice 2. So I'll again give them a type of choice because they are choices. So now let me save changes and see the difference. I'll rebuild it. Leave. Okay. So you see the difference here. So I only added choice or multi-select or single select on the first row. I did not change anything on the second or third row. System only changed it on those cells. So that determines, or that tells us that whatever we see under a row is a single cell. So each uh, sub question under a row, or a child question of a row, is a cell uh, when it comes to the view of how that table would look like. Okay. So if I want to go and change for row 2 as well, then I need to change this and this questions, which are the first two text questions, and make them as radio and checkbox as well. And frankly, Probench does not have any limitations on the combinations that you use. And if you have selected one question type for row 1, then it is not necessary to have the same question types for row 2. So that gives you the flexibility of the way you want to collect the data. And uh, uh, like uh, any amount of data, or the multiple varieties of data you want to collect, it's completely up to you, and it's completely flexible. So this is how we basically create or work with the table question type. So yeah, hopefully this was useful. So let me go quickly to take all the FAQs that we normally have. Can we add any number of rows and columns? So, answer is yes for the rows. There is no limitation to the number of rows you can add. But when it comes to columns, it depends on how much space do you have, and what type of questions you use in the columns, because then if there are the number of columns goes too big, or the number of columns are too many, and then it might not fit on a single width of the page, and that would not give a good look and feel for the users, and it might make the page a bit more cumbersome. So I would say like 6 7 columns, 8 columns max should be the number that you should look at. uh, is it possible to create a table without a column header, and how? So it is possible, as I just demonstrated. If you remove the first row of the table, it would definitely work. But then you also have to remove the row headers, because then the first row header would be a normal text. So you have to take care of that. So it is definitely so similarly, the next question is it possible to create a table without a row header? So it is like, yes, definitely possible. So if I remove this from here, this text that I have added for each of the rows, and then just rebuild the page, then you see there are no row headers, and I'm able to see extra is because of that row header. I had an extra inline text, which I'll have to remove as well, because I have removed the row header. So I'll click on save changes, and then go to here to rebuild the page. So yeah, now you see the table without row headers. Okay. This is how it is possible to go without a row header, by removing the row text and an additional header on the top. So yeah, is it possible to have table with only choices? Yes, this is definitely possible to do. So when I say only choices, what uh, we meant was that instead of this question type, there would be only choices in each of the cells. Then that is definitely possible, but I'll There will be a different video that I would record on demonstrating how to create a table with only choices. Okay, so stay tuned with for that. Can auto scoring be also applied to the table question type? So yes, that is definitely possible. Even for that, I would record a separate video which specifically covers the topic of uh, scoring and how the auto scoring works, and how it would work with the table as well. So you will get the link in the description of this video as well, and also on the top of the on the top right of the video. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So another question is, can we format row and column headers? It is not possible to format a row header, but it is definitely possible to format the column header. As I said, the row headers are what something we used here. Uh, so uh, I would go for this row 2, row 3, and here I'll add another a blank one. But if I want to say format it with underline and things, not strike but underline. Okay, so this all thing is definitely doable. Okay, so similarly I'll do this. You can also kind of change the font styles, everything, all the styles I can definitely give here. Okay, so let me just show, or this is just for demonstration. Obviously, this would look a bit bad when it comes to UI, but yeah, this is how it would look. This is because I copied it. Okay, so this is definitely doable. Uh, the one way that I can just remember of how you can format the row headers as well is to not use the row names at all as column names, but instead, like I would uh, create an inline text inside the row and make it as our uh, so here inline text, I will mark it as row 1 and build and give it as a size of say 18. So I'll just copy it over to other rows. Copy. So here I'll make it as row 2 and here I'll make it as row 3. So this is one way to like uh, even format the row headers, but then the row text cannot be used as a row header, then it would be this way. So you'll have to add an inline text which would then be used as a row header. So hopefully this is a bit useful to answer your question. The next is, can we have branching logic to show or hide a row or a column? Yes, definitely we can do that. So we can have a branching logic at any point within the table. So if you want to have a branching logic above a row, so that if a logic satisfies, you would see a row, and if it does not satisfy, it would hide that row. That is definitely possible. And if you want to do that at a column level, so if you want to hide a column, say completely like column one, then you will have to do it for the first uh, question for each of the rows. So it would hide the whole column. So that's how you can hide the rows and columns and also apply the branching logic there. Can we assign the width to the columns? No, currently it is not possible to assign width to the columns. But in future we are there would be an update which would allow you to do that. How can we add different types of questions in the table? So that I think I have already demonstrated, like whatever question you want to add inside the row, that's definitely possible. So there is no limitation to what type of question you can use. So yes, like I've already demonstrated that part of uh, that part basically. All right, so hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any further questions while creating the type of so the table type, or anything to do with any creativity on how to create tables, and if a particular question can be added, or can a combination of questions and all those things, please feel free to throw a question, or you have any general question about the table question type, please feel free to email at support@73bit.com. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day. Bye bye. Take care.